We are about to see a lot of severe weather over the next few days, leading to a potential for damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes. So let's get right into it. It's Sunday, May 31st, 2026, and we have some potential for some severe weather today out here in parts of the plains and Midwest. You can see the Storm Prediction Center has issued a marginal risk going from the Texas-Mexico border all the way up into parts of the northern plains. Inside of that level 1 of 5 marginal risk, there is a potential that we could be seeing some isolated severe weather. But we have a level 2 out of 5 slight risk out here for parts of western Missouri and eastern Kansas. We're going to have some storms develop out there, having a chance for some damaging winds, hail, and maybe even an isolated tornado. If we switch over to tornado risk here, there is a 2% tornado risk actually in effect out here in western Missouri and parts of northeastern Kansas. You can see there's a 2% tornado risk out here. Wouldn't rule out this being upgraded to potentially a 5%, or they might add maybe a tornado conditional Tennessee Group 1 risk, which means EF2+ tornadoes possible. I think they might add that potentially over here. If we get one of those storms to really just mature, then I don't think we can rule out a strong tornado back here. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that. But our main concerns for today will be some damaging winds out here. There's a 15% wind risk outlined out here in parts of western Missouri and parts of northeastern Kansas. So definitely, if you're out there, make sure to strap down unsecured objects so they don't fly away. And also park your car in the garage so that it doesn't get damaged by hail. I do think that we could be seeing some pretty large hail out there with some of those more stronger storms. And then for tomorrow on Monday, June 1st, we will have another severe weather potential out here in parts of the plains down into the southeast. But yeah, I can see here the marginal risk is actually in effect from the southeastern U.S. all the way up into parts of the northern plains, and then they issued a slight risk from northeastern Colorado down to parts of Kansas. We're mainly looking at a damaging wind threat, but we cannot rule out a isolated tornado or two out here in northeastern Colorado down to parts of Kansas. Cannot rule out an isolated tornado or two, but damaging winds will be the main concern. I do think we could see winds up to 70 miles per hour, potentially even more. So definitely be aware for that. There's a 15% wind risk outlined by the Storm Prediction Center within these areas. Also, we're also going to be looking at some hail and some potentially very large hail with some of these storms. So definitely make sure you're staying weather aware for tomorrow on Monday. There is a low chance of a live stream. Now on Tuesday, we'll have another severe weather potential. We have a marginal risk down here in parts of the southeast. For Tuesday, you can see that we're not looking at anything too crazy, mainly just some isolated severe weather. And then we have another chance for some severe weather out here in parts of the northern plains. There's a slight risk actually outlined out here in parts of the northern plains. So we're definitely going to be watching Tuesday very closely, and definitely make sure you're staying prepared out there in the northern plains, especially on Tuesday. I think we're mainly looking at a chance for some damaging winds, hail. Looking at the future radar for today, you can see if we push this up, we're going to have some storms kind of push through here. You can see we're going to have a storm out here in parts of Missouri kind of push through. That might produce some damaging winds through as we get into the afternoon. Maybe even isolated tornado. I don't think that's going to be too big of a concern though. Our main stuff is actually going to start developing a little bit later today, potentially around 8 p.m. We're going to have some storms develop out there, potentially around southeastern Kansas. And then those are going to push through those areas. It looks like we're mainly going to be looking at chance for some damaging winds out there, especially if you're out there in Kansas City today. Definitely make sure you're staying prepared for potential severe weather, especially around 11 and around midnight Eastern and everything like that. So definitely, if you're sleeping out there in the Kansas City area tonight, definitely make sure you're having a way to get alerts that will wake you up if you end up in a morning. If you're out there in Kansas City, we're going to have some storms develop out there. I don't think we're going to have a big tornado risk, but you can see that we're going to have some storms develop out there. And I do think that there is a potential that they might add a 5% tornado risk out here, but it doesn't look too crazy. We're also going to have some storms develop out there in western Iowa. Those are going to kind of push through there as well, so be aware if you're out there. Looks like these are going to be pretty nocturnal threats as well. And then if we go up here, farther up into parts of the northern plains, we're also going to have some storms push through up here today. So also be prepared for those storms. These storms have very low tornado threat. Maybe an isolated tornado can't be ruled out up here, but I think mainly damaging winds and hail. And there is decent amounts of Sigtor out here today, getting up to a 4. So that's a decent amount. You can see there's a Tor sounding right there. So you got a decent amount of significant tornado parameter out there today. So definitely going to be something that we got to be watching very closely. We got 4.4 down here, which also has a Tor sounding. So a decent amount of significant tornado parameter, which is basically like for hail and stuff like that. Used to know like where the big hail and damaging winds and tornadoes could be. There isn't like a crazy amount up here in the northern plains. Switching over to the CAPE, this stands for Convective Available Potential Energy. Our atmosphere out there is primed for severe weather today, but it's not just that we don't have all the ingredients. It's just not the craziest setup, but CAPE is pretty much off the charts today, as you can see right here. So definitely got to be watching eastern Kansas for those storms to develop, and I do think that it could be a pretty decent tornado risk out there. The farther north we go into like the northern plains, there's not a crazy amount of storm fuel. Tomorrow on Monday, this is Monday's future radar. I'm going to check what's going on out here in the plains tomorrow. We're going to have some storms develop out here, and initially I do think that these storms could be producing large hail and maybe a isolated brief tornado threat. I think our strong tornadoes are probably going to be on low. I don't think we're going to be seeing any strong tornadoes tomorrow, but I don't think we can rule it out. Let's check out significant tornado parameter. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing a chance for a strong tornado tomorrow. We have a very small potential for strong tornado tomorrow. We're mainly looking at a chance for brief spin up tornadoes tomorrow. Mainly when those storms first initiate and those more discrete supercells. And then they're mainly going to produce a damaging wind threat and a hail threat. So definitely, if you're out there in Wichita, Kansas, while you're sleeping tomorrow night on Monday, out there in Wichita, Kansas, definitely make sure you're having a way to get alerts. There's going to be a line of storms pushing through there. Western Kansas, also make sure you're staying aware tomorrow, and all of these areas, even up into parts of Nebraska. So we're going to have a lot of storms out there with a pretty big damaging wind threat. I do think we could see potentially winds exceeding 70 to 75 miles per hour. If we switch over to CAPE, the environment out there does support 70 to 75 mile per hour winds, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised if they added a SIG 1 for that threat. And as I mentioned, the severe weather threat even goes all the way down here into the southeast. We're going to have a line of storms push through there. See up here in parts of Tennessee and these areas, we're going to have a line of storms push through there, producing a chance for some damaging winds and hail. Let's go up there and let's see what that storm looks like. See if we're going to have that storm push through even into St. Louis around 3 a.m. So we'll watch that, but then that storm is kind of going to move down there in Tennessee. Wouldn't rule out maybe an isolated brief spin-up tornado with those line of storms as it moves into Tennessee. So western Tennessee tomorrow on Monday, definitely be aware from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for potential severe weather, and make sure you're having a way to get alerts and everything like that. Then those line of thunderstorms will push into parts of Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. Then we're going to have some storms develop out here in parts of northeastern Arkansas tomorrow. Those could produce some large hail and damaging winds, maybe even an isolated brief spin-up tornado. You can see our significant tornado parameter values out here are not that crazy either. So now we're going to talk about Tuesday. You can see if we push the future radar up, you can see on Tuesday we're going to have some storms start to develop out there. Around, let's see here, potentially around 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have some storms initiate out there, and this is kind of where the slight risk is. We won't rule out maybe an isolated brief spit-up tornado, but we're mainly looking at chance for some damaging winds and hail on Tuesday out here. And then going down into parts of the southern plains and mid-plains, you can see we're also going to have some storms out there on Tuesday, kind of push through those areas. So definitely going to be watching that very closely. And then out here in the southeast on Tuesday, we're also going to be looking at some storms, mainly damaging winds and hail. But I won't even rule out maybe an isolated brief spin-up tornado. If we go over to Sigtor, see there's some out there, but maybe a brief spin-up tornado out there in the southeast on Tuesday. So definitely make sure you stay aware on Tuesday, and that's Tuesday's future radar. So we're going to see what's driving all the severe weather. So you can see that the reason why I haven't been seeing any severe weather towards the eastern coast of the United States, the reason why I haven't been seeing any severe weather over there is because we're having some cooler air, and we're having a system come through that just doesn't support severe weather. It's even bringing snow in the northeast, so that was pretty crazy. But you can see here that storm system out here in the east, that's going to prevent like crazy severe weather from happening. That's kind of going to move out of there. And then this might even have maybe even a tropical system try to form just off the coast of the southeastern United States. This might try to spin up a tropical storm, potentially. I think there's a low chance, but there is a potential. So we'll be watching that very closely out here. And we are still having our Omega block pattern. And have that high pressure system kind of go down there into parts of the southern plains. We're still going to have that Omega block pattern. This is kind of around the time when we're going to start seeing severe weather up there in parts of the northern plains and parts of the Midwest. I am watching for a potential storm system on Sunday, next Sunday, on June 7th. So I'm going to be watching that. That might bring some potential severe weather up there in the Pacific Northwest, but mainly just some rain and stuff. So we'll be watching that very closely there. See here that we're going to have some decently warm temperatures out there in parts of the plains. That should continue. And then we're going to have some of those cooler temperatures out there towards the eastern half of the United States and parts of the Northeast. That's why we're not seeing that much severe weather out there. It's because we're having cooler temperatures. That should continue all the way out to potentially June 4th. Then we might see a warm up out there towards the eastern half of the United States. We could see a pretty big warm up as we get into parts of June 8th into 9th. We can see a big warm up out there. So we're going to be watching for some cooler temperature, some warmer temperatures coming to the United States, potentially leading to a record temperatures out there. Now let's talk about some of the tropical weather before we end things off. You can see here that we have a tropical disturbance out here. Just off the coast of Mexico. You can see there's a tropical disturbance with the day 7, 20% chance low of development. And then we got another tropical disturbance out here, southwest of Baja, California. You can see here, day 7 is 80% high chance of development. So we'll be watching out here for potential development. I don't think we'll be impacting any land. But if you're out there in Hawaii and kind of those areas, we'll keep you guys updated on what's going on. That's pretty much all I got for you in today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Stay weather aware. Stay tuned as there is a very low chance I'll be live today, tomorrow, and on Tuesday. And I'll see you in the next one.